Year 10 Trigonometry Exam Practice Question 24. A rectangular prism has a base whose length is twice its width. The height of the prism is 3 times its width. Write the length and height of the prism in terms of its width. I'm going to do this one in conjunction with B, which is draw a labeled diagram. So, I've already drawn a diagram on the side here. The first thing I know is I've got my width. It's set my length is twice its width, so it's 2w. Then it tells me that my height is 3 times its width, so it's 3w. Then for question C, it says find the length of the base diagonal in terms of w. So I'll do it as a purple line. So it means I'm looking at this base over here. So to work that out, I need to do Pythagoras theorem, which my Pythagoras theorem is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So my a will be w, so it'll be w squared. My b is 2w, so it'll be 2w squared is equal to c squared. I can simplify that because 2w squared means 2 squared is 4 and w squared is equal to c squared. So 1w squared plus 4w squared is equal to 5w squared is equal to c squared. Now I just need to square root both sides to get my c by itself. That means I'm left with square root of 5, and the square root cancels out the power and gives me a w. So square root 5w. So I'm just going to put that right next to my current line over here. So now we know this part here, we can then look at the next question. So I'll just make some extra space. So question, now we've done that, let's look at D. It says calculate the length of the diagonal within the prism in terms of W. So that just means that what we are going to need to do is use the measurements that we have, but I'm going to create another line, which is the diagonal from the top to the bottom. So, based on that, we've got our two of our measurements. We've got 3w and we've got square root 5w. So again, we're using our Pythagoras theorem, which we are going 3w squared plus square root 5w squared is equal to c squared. 3 squared is 9. So we get 9w squared plus square root 5 squared cancels out the square root, and we get 5w squared equals c squared. 9 lots of w squared plus 5 lots is equal to 14w squared is equal to c squared. Again, I am wanting to get my c by itself, so I square root both sides. That gives me the square root of 14w. So now we can put that over here. And I'll make some space for our last question. So for our last question, it states, find the angle of the internal diagonal of the prism makes with the diagonal of the base. So we are looking at this angle right here. So I'm going to use 2 of the lengths. Straight away I'm going to use the opposite, and I'm going to use my j set, which I found before, as square root 5w. That means I'm using the tan ratio. So my tan alpha, my tan angle, is equal to the opposite, which is 3w, over the square root of 5w. As we know with dividing, the w's cancel out. So I could have written that as tan alpha equals 3 over the square root of 5. And I need to do the inverse of tan to get the angle by itself. So tan negative 1, 3 over square root of 5. This gives me the angle for alpha as 53.3 degrees. It says give your angle to the nearest degree, so I'll just say it's 53 degrees.